So what we want to do is create another widget like we did here, right? We have a display widget here. We want another one. So we're going to scroll down to the bottom and go to user interface and widget blueprint. And we're going to do user blueprint widget. And we're going to call it BP, and I'm going to call it HUD because it's heads up display. And it's basically just like saying like it's going to be playing always over our player and showed when our player is out and about. And so we're going to double click this. And then what we want to do is have it scaled over, right, just like we did before. We want to add a canvas panel. We want this to be able to display anything that we want to show on our screen. And then I want to add the bolts that I made. I'm going to take the texture and I'm just going to drag it into my screen. And you're going to see that it is kind of squishy, but I can make it bigger. And I'm going to use that as text up here. And then I'm also going to add a text field. And I'm going to put that over here. And I'm going to modify it slightly, right? So I want the font to be bigger. Maybe not that big. That big sound looks good, right? And I don't want it to be text. I want to default to 0 just so that we can see what it's going to look like, right? That's going to be the number. And so what it's always good to do is I like to do things incrementally. So I'm going to compile this and save everything just to make sure everything is out this way. So if something crashes, I don't lose all the work I just did. And now I'm going to go add this so I can see what it looks like on the screen once the game is playing, right? We want to add it to the game. So what we're going to do is go back to the third person character because this is where we're going to need to add it. This is going to be something that is on the third person character. So we always, whenever he's displayed, we want it to be up on the screen. And we're going to go to their event graph. And you're going to notice that there's already some graphs or some events happening in here, right? If you zoom in on some of this, it's going to be, input action, movement, camera movement, jump movement. So what you want to do is find that's all stuff that was built for this character that was already pre-built. We want to move to a blank spot. And what we're going to do is right click and look for begin, event begin play. And what's going to happen is once this starts playing, like once someone starts playing the game, this is automatically going to be shown. So just like what we did before where we created the blueprint, created the widget. We're going to create the widget. We're going to tell them the widget that we want, which is the HUD. Right? And then we're going to actually add it to this screen, right? So we're going to add to viewport. And so this should, if we compile, and of course whenever you have an input, you're going to need something that goes to it. So we have that, and I'm going to go back to the third person character, or to the game, the level, and I'm going to hit play. And you're going to see I have the lightning bolt up in the top corner with 0. And since I didn't connect it yet, so I could come here, and you can see the numbers updating on the left-hand side, but the numbers aren't changing on the right because I still need to do that part. So now what we want to do is go and actually connect that. So we're going to go back to our heads up display. And what we want to do is on the right hand side, we're going to click on our value that we want to change, that we want it to be a reflection of what's in the stored value that we did, the variable that we created. So that's text, and we want to click on it looks kind of like a paperclip right next to it, and if we click on it, it says create binding. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to make this connected to the data that we have stored on the third person. So we have this now, and it automatically generates this for us, and you'll see that we're now on the graph mode as opposed to the designer mode. If you want to get back to the other one, you click the designer mode at the top right corner. So graph gets us the blueprints, and designer gets us the other part. And now what this part right here is, it's actually a function. If you can see over here on the, you'll see like the top, the tab is called get text, and on the left hand side over here under the my blueprints, we have a function called get text. So this is how we're going to go get the text, but we actually first need to connect it to, just like we did for connecting and having the heads up display, we also need to do the same thing to go. And so we're going to click over onto event graph at the top on the tab, and there's an event construct. We want this one because it's basically, like you could read here, it says called after the underlying slate widget was constructed. So when this widget is made, it's going to first call this one, and we need to go, just like we did before, we need to cast this to the third person character, right? Now, unlike before where we were able just to use this, what we now need to do is, like you'll see that we don't have anything coming from this event construct to fill in on the left hand side of this. And if we try to compile it, it's going to give us an error saying that we need an object that this is going to be based off of. So what we're going to do is click out from the object, and what we need is to get player character. And this should just, it basically just gets us the current player character that we have. So now that we know we have the object that we're going to be getting this information from, and now what we're going to do is click out from the blue part, the as BP third person character, and we're going to actually, you could right click it, sorry, and say promote to variable. And so what this is going to do is, if you notice over here, it added a variable under our spot over here, and we're going to change this to, player, and just so that we have that available to us, that we could go and get that player information. We'll call it player, and you'll see that it's a BP third person character. And we can compile. I always like to make sure I compile, make sure I get everything done correct. So basically what we've done is, when this blueprint is constructed, it's going to go and collect and get information from that third person character and get it, and it's going to save that off into this variable. Now we could go back to get text, and we could use this variable that we saved of the third person, and we could get that player, and now we should be able to also get the collected value from that. And we want to make, this is what we're going to bind, and we're going to display it on the screen. So now we have our integer here, and we want to return that value. And you'll notice this is green and this is purple. So this is a text value and this is an integer value. We can manually do it, but we could also just click and do it, and you'll see Unreal is kind of nice. It says convert integer to text, and it'll do it for us. So we could just open these up so that we could read what's happening, right? So what it's doing is, we're getting our player character, we're getting the get collected value, the collected value that we've saved, and we're doing that, and we're going to save it to the spot. I'm going to compile that and save everything. And now we're going to go to our third person, and we're going to hit play, and you can see we have 0. And then we're going to come and hit our 1, and look, it updated to 1. I do it again, 2, and so on. And so it keeps going. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we'll go back into our bolt and update it so that when we hit a certain amount of numbers of bolts collected, then we'll have more processing.